What makes a hero? Is it the power to level a mountain with a single punch? Is it the costume? Or is it the way you die? In comic books, death is usually a revolving door, a temporary inconvenience between, summer crossovers. But what happens when you're the original tragic death? What happens when your passing is so impactful that it births an entirely new life, leaving you feel like a ghost of your own body when you finally wake up years later? Last episode, we talked about the Black Widow and the idea of a manufactured identity with the Red Room. But today, we're looking at a man whose identity was manufactured after he died. We're talking about a man who put the West Coast in West Coast Avengers. The pacifist powerhouse and the Hollywood heartthrob. We're diving into the unstable ionic energy of Simon Williams, also known as Wonder Man. Welcome back to Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and if you've been with us for a while, especially during our deep dives with Hank Pym and his family tree, you know the Avengers have a lineage that looks less like a tree and more like a tangled ball of Christmas lights. Well, today we're pulling on one of the brightest and most volatile strands of that mess. Let's set the stage. It's 1964. Avengers number 9 is released, the Beatles are taking over America, and Stan Lee, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby are about to introduce a character who is defined right from the jump as failure. Unlike Steve Rogers, who volunteered, or Thor, who was born into it, Simon Williams starts as a cautionary tale of corporate greed. He's the younger son of a wealthy industrialist, Sanford Williams. Simon inherits Williams' innovations, but he isn't a genius inventor like Tony Stark. He's a businessman who gets crushed by the competition. He drives his father's company into the ground, gets caught embezzling funds to save it, and hits rock bottom. Think about that for a second. His origin isn't a radioactive spider, it's white-collar crime and jealousy. He blames Tony Stark for his failures, and that bitterness makes him the perfect target for the Enchantress and Baron Zemo. Now Zemo, who we've discussed as the antithesis of Captain America, isn't running a charity. He offers Simon a way out. He subjects him to an experimental ionic ray treatment. And here's where the echo begins. This treatment turns Simon into a living battery of ionic energy. He becomes as strong as Thor, invulnerable and immortal. Zemo dubs him Wonder Man. But here's a kicker, and it's pure Silver Age cruelty at its finest. Zemo didn't just give him powers, he gave him a death sentence. The ionic treatment was metabolically unstable. Zemo reveals that without a weekly antidote that only he possesses, Simon will die within 7 days. Simon isn't a partner, he's a hostage. He is sent to infiltrate the Avengers, gain their trust, and then lead them into a trap in exchange for the cure. And, well, he does it. He betrays them. He leads Earth's mightiest Avengers into an ambush by the Masters of Evil. But at the last second, watching the Avengers fight selflessly for a world that fears them, Simon's conscience kicks in. He realizes that he can't become the monster. In a moment of pure redemption, he turns on Zemo. He saves the team, smashing Zemo's machinery and his cure. But the clock runs out. Without the antidote, Simon collapses. In 1964, that was it. He died a hero, asking the Avengers to ensure his life meant something. It was tragic. It was final, and it was meant to be a one-off story. However, in comics, a body is just a plot device waiting to happen. Simon stayed dead for years, but while his body was in a death-like coma, which was a detailed retcon later to explain why he didn't decompose, his legacy was being weaponized. His brother, Eric Williams, was driven insane by Simon's death. Eric became the Grim Reaper, a villain whose entire motivation is a twisted love for his brother, blaming the Avengers, for murdering him. But the true ripple effect, the massive echo, happens in Avengers number 57. The evil robot Ultron creates a synthezoid to destroy the Avengers, the Vision. But Ultron, being a machine, cannot create a soul. He needs a template. So he steals the recorded brain patterns of the deceased Simon Williams. This is critical to understand. The Vision is Simon. He has Simon's personality quirks, his capacity for love, his inflection. But he lacks Simon's memories. When Simon finally returns to life, fully resurrected in Avengers 151, way back in 1976, he wakes up to a living nightmare. Imagine waking up from a 12-year coma. You're disoriented. You're traumatized by the sensation of dying. And then you walk into the living room and see a red-skinned android wearing a cape, speaking with your voice, and holding hands with the Scarlet Witch. This creates one of the most fascinating psychological dynamics in Marvel history. Throughout the 80s, specifically in West Coast Avengers, Simon isn't just fighting villains, he's fighting an existential crisis. Like we talked about before with Hank Pym, he suffers from a massive imposter syndrome. He looks at the Vision, who is calm, competent, and an Avenger A-lister, and thinks, he's the better version of me. I'm just the flawed original. This era also introduced his defining flaw, thanatophobia, which is the fear of death. This makes total sense. He is the only Avenger who vividly remembers dying. He freezes in battle. He has panic attacks. While Thor is shouting, "Have at thee!" Simon is hyperventilating in the corner. It really makes him incredibly human. To cope, he goes in the complete opposite direction of a typical superhero. He craves validation. He moves to Los Angeles, and there he becomes a stuntman and eventually an actor. He starts wearing that iconic red safari jacket and sunglasses, which, let's be honest, is a look that only the 90s could love, but Simon made it work. He wanted fame because fame meant he was alive. He wanted the world to look at him and see Simon Williams, not that dead guy that the Vision is based on. So, how do you solve a problem like Wonder Man? A man who is practically a god, but is terrified of his own mortality. Let's fast forward a bit to catch you up on the last 2 decades of Simon's life, because his trajectory shifts wildly from Hollywood star to enemy of the state, and then, well, finally back to redemption. As we moved into the 2000s, specifically post-Civil War, Simon's perspective darkened. He looked at the chaos caused by the superhuman community, the Scarlet Witch breakdown in House of M, the Ultron Wars, and, well, Civil War itself, and he came to a radical, dangerous conclusion. The Avengers aren't the solution. They're the problem. This kicked off the Avengers phase. It's a tough read for Wonder Man fans, but it's crucial. He attacked the new Avengers, not because he was evil, but because he genuinely believed that the superheroes were causing more collateral damage than they were preventing. He was trying to save his friends by, well, forcing them to stop. It was a misguided intervention that turned violent. He was lashing out, essentially trying to stop the cycle of violence that had defined his own life and death. But you can't punch your way to peace, and Simon eventually realizes this. This realization birthed the modern pacifist Wonder Man, who we saw in Uncanny Avengers. This is probably one of the best iterations of the character. He joined the Avengers Unity Squad, which was a team meant to unite the X-Men and Avengers, but he made a vow. He would not throw a punch. He acted as the team's PR manager and its conscience. He tried to solve problems with empathy, and during this time, he also formed a profound bond with Rogue. Now, remember back in episode 31, we talked about Rogue's isolation. Before, she couldn't touch anyone without absorbing their life force. But Simon is made of pure ionic energy, so he is essentially infinite. Rogue discovered she could touch Simon. She could kiss him. She could absorb his powers, and it didn't hurt him. It just kind of tickled a bit. For the first time, Rogue had a partner she didn't have to be afraid of breaking. It was beautiful, intimate, and healing for both of them. But this is Simon Williams, and of course, he dies again. Rogue has to absorb him to, well, save the world. Powers, mind, everything. But as we know, ionic energy never truly dissipates. And this is where we catch up to the current day. If you've been watching the new Disney Plus Wonder Man series, you're seeing a version of Simon that leans heavily into his Hollywood satire, the actor trying to make it big. That screen synergy is live and well in the comics too. Currently, Simon is back on the West Coast, reunited with the newly formed West Coast Avengers, a team that includes Iron Man and Spider-Woman. And to bring us up to today, Marvel is going to launch a brand new Wonder Man solo series in March of this year. The new book is diving headfirst into the intersection of his superhero life and his Hollywood comeback. It's exploring the darker, grittier side of celebrities in the Marvel Universe, and it's a perfect companion piece, well, if you're enjoying the Disney Plus show. He's in a fascinating place right now. He's moved past crippling fear, moved past the anger of the Avengers era, and settled into a role of the cool uncle of the Avengers. He is finally comfortable in his own skin, even if that skin is made of crackling purple energy. So, I'll leave you with this question. With his recent surge in popularity thanks to the MCU show and the new 2026 comic series, Simon Williams is finally getting the fame he always craved. But does fame actually heal the trauma of being a copy, or is it just another mask? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I enjoy reading every single one. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life, death, and resurrection of Wonder Man, make sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Leaving a like and a 5-star review really help the podcast grow and reach more Marvel fans just like you. And if you want to see more of that red safari jacket, make sure you check out our link to our website below. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.